A challenge to be won here, and you need bodies around the ball for the second ball. So we've seen Virgil van Dijk headed before. This time it's Harry Maguire. And what do Manchester United have again? Like we saw on the first goal and another opportunity for Mason Mount, they've got players around the ball and narrow, which gives them an opportunity to pick up the second ball, then go from there. So we've seen the small detail on the throw-in and the big detail that's been mentioned a lot from Ruben Amorim in the game about going direct, second balls, then they get the corner, and that's where the 2-1 comes from.
So, Gary, where does the goal come from?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been looking a little bit at set pieces, and you have we spoke a bit about Nottingham Forest and whether you go man for man or because you put yourself at risk of penalties from VAR now, marking, or whether you go zonal. So Liverpool are a bit of both. But if you keep your eye on Szoboszlai at the back, he's in the back zone. He ends up
where he is, Gary.
Yep. So Szoboszlai is here. He should have a circle on him in a moment. He is the back zone man. I know he ends up being a little bit occupied by De Ligt. And then you look at the other two in Gakpo and Curtis Jones, who are also involved in this back area of the pitch. They're both markers, but they're both at the back. So they're responsible for the back of the goal. And then as it develops, you just see the tendencies of the players and what they're thinking and probably the state of the game. And the second phase of set plays are really difficult to coach because if it holds now, you can see Szoboszlai is still in not a bad spot. He's still sort of responsible for this back area. But because he's not a left back, he's going to start to drift into this area. Gakpo's thinking about counter-attacking. Curtis Jones is thinking about counter-attacking. And then before you know it, unbelievable quality from Bruno Fernandes. But you end up with 3 Man United players at the back zone. If you look at Szoboszlai now, and Curtis Jones has now realised that I've gone to counter-attack here, but we've not finished defending yet. So there's that little grey area around, is it still a set play, or are we into open play yet? But this is still a set play. You can see where Szoboszlai ends up. And Man United get any one of them 3 could have headed that in at the back post. So that little crossover between set play and open play is very, very difficult to deal with. We always coach where Szoboszlai should stay and be responsible for the back zone until this phase is finished. And he ends up in the middle of the pitch, probably because he's a midfielder, and that's where he's used to being, and it gets Man United a famous victory at Anfield.
What do Manchester United take from this? You said that, in terms of the system, there has to be more tweaks in terms of dominating teams and getting on top of sides. But do you think this will just breed confidence through the club that could take them in the right direction?
Yeah, I think as pundits we can always find something to criticise managers and teams for. I think firstly you have to give him massive credit because it's a huge result. You go to Anfield and Amorim needs results. Like, let's be honest, it's not all about style at the minute for Ruben Amorim. They need some results. So top result, but now can we get Manchester United back to where they were when we were growing up? For me, it's going to take a bit more than what we saw at Anfield the other day.
And I'm not sure anyone really expected this in terms of Liverpool, Jamie, given how impressive they were last season, winning the Premier League in Arne Slot's. And that huge investment in the summer. But has that almost created more confusion than it's solved problems?
Yeah, I think every Liverpool supporter's been sort of having sleepless nights trying to work out what Liverpool should be doing, the system they play, what players they use, the players they brought to the club, and I'm sure the manager's feeling exactly the same. But I've mentioned the last couple of weeks, Liverpool's summer transfer business didn't feel Liverpool-like. It felt Real Madrid-like in terms of actually going to buy the most expensive players or the best players on the market in the positions that you want and paying top dollar. Now, what we saw yesterday was Ekitike, who's been Liverpool's best signing, on the bench, and Wirtz on the bench. Now, I think Gary will know this better than me, but when you spend that type of money on players, the people who've spent the money they want to see that money on the pitch. You know, and that's a big problem for them.
Did you?
I haven't spent any money yet. Made a huge profit, just for the record, Jamie.
I mean, have you had a situation?
Yeah, so
like
we did have it. It's very different, obviously. But when I was at Wolves, we did a lot of work. We had some real success in our first season playing Mario Lemina and João Gomez as a 2. And then in the summer, we made Mario Lemina captain. And then 10 days or 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, Andre arrives from Brazil. Top signing, top midfielder. Loved him to bits. But now we have this conundrum of I've got my captain, who plays centre midfield. I've got João Gomez, who's been excellent. And I've got Andre. So do I change the system? So we tried changing the system. Didn't really work. Can I leave my captain out to get Andre in? Difficult one. Do I leave João out, who's been excellent for me since I've got here? So Arne Slot will be thinking about this, I'm guessing, a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he'll go training, he'll think about training, and he'll come in and he'll sit in his office and he'll look at his whiteboard and he'll just be thinking, how do I move these bits around to get these in and win football matches?
And Bert's in the same side.
I was probably one of the few people who wasn't big on Isak coming into the club because I thought it would be a problem when you buy a guy, Ekitike, for 80 million and another guy for 125 million. And it's not actually good for Isak having Ekitike on the bench because he's always looking over his shoulder. He can never relax. He knows if he hasn't done something in the first hour, he's probably going to come off. Now, I think Arne Slot, as you're saying, how can he get the two of them on the pitch? I think he's got to find a way, not every week, of getting the two of those players on the pitch.
Like then? Let's have a look.
Well, listen, I'm thinking of the big money signings who were on the bench at the weekend, and namely Vert. So I'm trying to rack my brains as well as a Liverpool supporter what Liverpool could do. Now, I've took Gakpo out there.
Ruthless.
Yeah, but listen, he played really well yesterday, and Szoboszlai would find a place somewhere in the team, but we're concentrating specifically on this attack. So Isak and Ekitike, at some stage, he's got to try and make that work. Now, I go back to what I said before, it was a Real Madrid summer. I think Arne Slot almost has to be a Real Madrid manager, and I put myself, he maybe put himself in the shoes of maybe Carlo Ancelotti, who every summer, whether that was at Chelsea, Real Madrid or AC Milan, they'd have big money signed and he'd have to make it work, and he would alter it to suit it. So perfect example is, he wins the Champions League a few seasons ago with Karim Benzema as the striker, Ballon d'Or winner. Benzema goes to Saudi, he ends up playing Bellingham as a false nine. It's a completely different way of doing things. So I look at Vert being maybe in that position, tucked in. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's about getting the money on the pitch. So Vert, you can't keep on the bench forever. So we've highlighted a few weeks ago, in that left channel there, inside, where he plays for Germany, where he played for Leverkusen in that back three system. Ekitike at times, and Isak off him there. And also playing Vert there, could that maybe get Carragher higher up the pitch? Because we all know, as Gary knows, the game now is about almost getting that front five up there. So maybe Vert comes inside in that position. Carragher's another signing. Maybe it opens the space for him to come in. And you get Ekitike, maybe Salah or Frimpong on that right side. But I'm trying to think as a manager, and you'll know this better than me, when you've spent big money, you have to find a way of getting these players in the team. And Carlo Ancelotti was the absolute master at this.
Yeah, and I think
5 and a 5.
Yeah, and I think it could suit Verts, because obviously the Premier League is definitely going to be more physical than what he's been used to, and maybe some of the criticism aimed at him, or some of the reason that he's been ended up on the bench, is adapting to the physicality of the Premier League. So maybe if he operates wide and drifts into pockets rather than being someone that's in there around midfielders all the time, maybe he'll get a bit more freedom. You've seen Thomas Frank doing it a little bit with the boy they signed from Leipzig.
Yeah.
Simmons.
Yeah.
So they've tried to do that with him. So maybe it gives him a bit more freedom to arrive off the side and drop into things rather than being in the middle of the pitch all the time. I think it definitely suits the three at the back, and Carragher hasn't shown his Bournemouth form yet, so maybe giving him that licence to go around people will get him involved. But the key, as Jamie said, to get back to the point,